broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Aaron hates this song. I obviously picked it, as you guys can tell. Welcome back to another AfterBuzz Face-Off show. We got some dancers in the booth. Work it, Marissa. I'm your host, Danica Kennedy. This is Season 7, Episode 10, Teacher's Pets. And joining me tonight is...
Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm Danica's co-host. Woo!
Woo! Thanks for joining me. And thanks for letting me play that song, even though you obviously are not a big High School Musical fan.
It was a huge fight. We
big fight.
got really tense.
We had to pick a song that would be, Teacher's Pet-esque, High School Musical. What more high school is High School Musical, I guess? I don't know. Mine was a little High School Musical-ish, but...
I loved it. It worked.
To an art school, so... So, Teacher's Pet. The Teacher's Pet this week was Drew.
Yes.
I did not disagree. I disagree. I would not have picked him to win. And I was definitely feeling like Glenn picked him to win because it looked like a mix between Glenn and Drew.
Yeah, it was basically Drew and Glenn's emo baby.
Goth emo baby.
Goth emo baby. I didn't like it either. It was
Teacher's
just...
Pet.
I know.
Right?
You know what?
It worked.
It totally worked. He modeled after Glenn.
And the whole episode, he was like, oh, I want this to look like Glenn. And Glenn was like, this is a fantastic makeup. It's so detailed. It was very detailed. It was smooth. But it was kind of boring compared to the other ones.
It was. It was very, very boring. And I wouldn't even say it looked... I didn't even say it looked realistic. I mean, maybe it's just the colors of black and that paler colors like on screen that it just didn't look as interesting as the other ones, Mm-hmm. But it was just not fun. At least what I think.
This week for me wasn't as fun. It felt like the makeups were not nearly as strong. There were ones that definitely stood out compared to the others, but this episode just wasn't that great for a lot of the makeup artists.
Yeah, it was. They didn't really get to shine as much as they have been shining throughout. It was kind of almost as just a group. They all kind of just and kind of just collapsed together.
They're probably so exhausted too at this point. And I don't know, with this kind of challenge, the teacher's pet kind of thing, you could go so literal with it,
Mm-hmm.
Like Sasha's big problem this week was that her Cyclops had a bunch of eyes, and a Cyclops is supposed to have one eye. But if you just take a one-eyed human and put it in a cheerleading outfit, what's the fun in that for a makeup artist? You want to think outside of the box and get adventurous. And that's why Stella's was so cool as the Minotaur. She did a cow instead and made it a girl and switched it so it was the head with the human body.
Yeah.
I think it's creative to think outside of the box, and I think it was ballsy of them to do those things, but it would be so boring to just take it literally.
Yeah, it really, and which Drew did, and which I think that's the reason why they both
took it a little too literal.
Yeah, and I just...
Same with George, the jock goblin, that was it, that's the whole story.
Yeah, it really...
It
was just okay.
Yeah, and then with, Sig, for example, he has the whole storyline and the plot with how his character's getting the wedgies, and, it's fun to develop the character into like a real creature that could be a character in a movie instead of just like, here's a Cyclops in a cheer outfit with pom-poms.
Yeah, I know. It was that's the cool thing about, just thinking about Sig. I agreed with him in the sense that he should have been top looks.
Yes.
Because he had like this whole character built in, and I think that's what's always amazing about Sig is he always gives his like creatures a name, a personality, something that they always do,
And it was a good makeup. Like,
yeah.
Some of the other ones weren't as strong. Like you could see the seams, and it just wasn't as put together this week.
Yeah, and I would honestly say over Sig and Drew, I would have totally went with Sig.
Same here.
Yeah, I know it was Drew's shining week, and he did like a great job, but I mean, just compared to all the other ones, it was just, I just thought Sig's was a lot stronger. I even felt like Dina's was way stronger. Dina's was my favorite.
Dina's was my favorite this week,
Yeah.
and when they were saying the safe looks, Stella, Dina, and Sasha, I was hoping that the two top looks were going to be Dina and Stella.
Yeah.
Those were, or Dina and Sig, if not Stella.
Exactly.
Those were like my three favorites this week.
And I don't know why they were just the ones who were like, yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, Dina's was fantastic. They did say it was it was cartoony, and maybe that didn't go in her favor, but the shape of it all, it was interesting.
But
it
it's
just
the
looked,
character, and it follows the guidelines of what they were asking.
yeah, and it looked adorable too. I wanted to hug
so
it.
Funny how she kept being like, "Oh, it's modeled after my sister." I bet her sister's at home being like, "F you, Dina. Like,
Yeah,
why are
and-
you saying this horrible goblin creature is modeled after me? So dweeby and nerdy."
And why are you putting up childhood photos of me on for the
With
entire
a bowl
nation?
cut.
Yeah, with a bowl cut. And she was even saying that after she showed the picture, she's like, she had like a perm bowl cut, and I was like, oh, poor thing.
She's cutting the wig.
I would have been so upset if that was my older sibling putting
Oh my
pictures of me. I
gosh.
would be like, you are dead. I don't care. You're on a reality show. Take that off.
It was both
Say I'm the friend.
Dina and Sig had insanely nerdy characters, and they were my favorites. But like, I don't think either of those characters could have been any dorkier or nerdier.
Yeah, they were. It was just perfect.
Like, yeah. The detail too, with like the glasses and the mouths looking very like, I don't know. I think that Sig's mouth was really funny too. How it just kind of like hung open and it had that snotty, disgusting nose.
It was like bleh, bleh. That's what it looked like. Bleh.
Puffer fish.
Yeah, it really did look
cold.
like some sort of fish. See, if I was up to me, I would have totally been like Dina and Sig, top looks.
Same here.
Or if I had to pick three, Dina, Sig, Stella. And then it would have been Dina, Sig, Stella, then maybe Drew at the, I don't know. Drew wasn't my fave. I hate to say
didn't like
it.
how they were all gung-ho about Drew's, but then they were like, Sasha's is too alien-esque, and if you take the pom-poms away, there's nothing. It's like, well, if you took the emo wig off the emo character, then it wouldn't look like anything either. It
Yeah.
would, that really is what made it emo. Like, a little eyeliner and like the black nose doesn't really make it that character. It's that wig with the haircut.
Exactly. Yeah.
The classic emo haircut.
Yeah.
It's called that, like with the side bangs. And
I'm glad you brought that up because I couldn't agree more. I felt like it was unfair that they took the pom-poms away from her and they were like, oh, you just look like a little alien. I'm like, well, I mean, like you said, if you take the emo hair away from somebody, then of course it's not going to look. That's
And
part
they
of their
were, like,
costume.
on her about the multiple eyes, but they didn't care about Stella changing the sex of the Minotaur to be a cow or
Yeah.
switching the body parts.
Yeah, or even, you're thinking about that. And also, I
It
thought...
did look like an alien, though. Like,
Yeah.
they were right about that.
Yeah, it did look like an alien, but I still got the Cyclops aspect, and I think I would have appreciated it more because it was one huge eye, and there was many, many eyes around it,
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't... Yeah, I thought that was unfair that they were like, give me the pom-pom. She doesn't look like anything. Like, okay, calm down. You just like the other one because it looks
She
like...
still looked like the popular diva girl, though, with
Yeah.
the sparkle lips and the outfit. I think it was still like the skinny, bitchy, popular girl at school.
Exactly.
Even though it wasn't a one-eyed one.
I think they just saw the costume too much and saw that it was so sparkly and they were like, this isn't a realistic cheerleading outfit. But I mean, this is also not a realistic character in a real high school. You know what I mean? I would imagine a high school with all these extravagant creatures
Yeah,
in there would
but-
not have normal cheerleading outfits.
The whole, project is to create a fantasy character
I know.
that goes to high school. And they're supposed to be really out there. And I feel like the ones that they gravitated towards were the more basic, normal high school kind of characters.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
thought,
Sig's was like, it was phenomenal. But yeah, it was
His
like
was
Drew's the
great.
one that was like, they were all about, was like, oh, it's okay.
But Sig, if he just said, like, this is the Minotaur nerd and just did that pretty boring. The fact that he had the whole wedgie story, how it was hooked onto his horns, and he named it Manny Menotari, and he has this whole backstory.
And he had like the snot dripping and the freckles that like moves all the way to the arm.
Details, and that's what brings the character to life.
Yeah.
The fact that he has this whole backstory to it. It's funny because you can tell like the good makeup artists, they come up with the whole backstory and like the characteristics. I think it's almost the same for actors too, where like if you're an actor and you're just reading the lines and, you know, doing the scene, whatever, you're doing the job, you're doing the bare minimum. But if you actually think of like, what has this character been through, or like what has changed them to be this way, and like develop this whole plot line behind it, it makes it so much more interesting and deep.
Yeah, well, it elevates the whole production, you know. It just makes it so much more interesting. Yeah, like you said.
You could tell the good one. I just love that like Dina, Stella, and Sig this week were great. I'm not saying that Drew's a bad makeup artist or anything. I just think it was unfair that they're like saying the eyeball thing to Sasha and other things, and they're like so gung-ho about his, when it was like the wig is what makes it emo. Yeah. And yeah, it's a good makeup, but it's not that far out there.
Yeah, it really wasn't. I mean, and even like, I'm just saying, like, I guess I'm all right. I'll give up on Dina. You know, Dina didn't make top looks, but even then, once again, still Sig and Drew. Sig's was the most impressive out of both of them. But I mean, I guess they were doing I don't know. It seemed almost like if it was a political thing.
I feel like he was teacher's pet.
Yeah, like he was like,
Glenn liked him because he was like him.
And it was like, this is the first time like Drew has like really stood out. Like, so let's give it to him. Like, no, this is a reality show. You know, this is like a competition still. Look how we're so like heated about this.
We're all like, well, it's just so funny that the episode is called Teacher's Pet, and we both feel like they played Teacher's Pet this episode.
They did.
And even when we were watching it and talking to each other, we're like, oh, I bet these two are going to be top looks. And then it didn't happen. So.
Yeah, I know. I totally was like, Dina, Sig. There we go.
Yeah.
Dina's going to win.
I did know that Rachel and George were going to be on the bottom, though.
You're like a little secret. You knew it.
I just like had a feeling. Well, when Rachel not having the horns
oh my gosh,
just makes it fall apart. Like, that's the whole point of it being a fawn. You can't tell that it's a fawn with just the makeup, especially with the ears covered too. It just looked like a cheerleader that had been in the sun too long, got a little skin cancer, and has some saggy calves because the prosthetic on the leg stayed there, but the horns didn't, and you couldn't see the fawn ears, and it just lost that whole aspect of the animal.
It did. And maybe I don't understand something about makeup, but I was almost thinking like, if I was in that situation, I would rather put the horns on and risk some of the pieces falling off when they're walking than not putting the horns on. You know what I mean? And just leaving. Here. I would have totally put the horns on, push the brush the hair back, because even when I saw the hair, I'm like, well, at least
pin it down or something.
Put it back, put it behind the ears, or do something.
They could have even just like stuck them on and done like buns around and just like pinned it as hard as they could. You know?
And if that would have been my worry about them falling over or being too heavy, then I would have just been like, you know what, it's gonna fall, but at least they would have seen it for about a couple seconds and then it fell apart, and it would have been bigger, you know, big old thing. But I would have went out with my vision rather than going out and, you know, selling myself short, because in the end it still cost her, you know. She might as well just went big and went home than hate to say that.
Like mentioned like, why are the ears covered up?
Yeah.
Like, why did you mess up? Did you do that on purpose? And she's like, no, it just kind of came out this way. And it's like, well, why?
Yeah. Like, how did it just come out that way?
It's like, how did you have enough time to give it a nose ring but not antlers?
Yeah. I would have sacrificed. I would have risked probably it falling off than just not putting the horns or anything like that, because that probably would have saved her. That probably would have kept her on. I mean, George is cool, but I mean, I think that would have if they would have had the horns, if you would have probably compared Rachel's to George's,
interesting character,
it would have been more
George's.
it would have been more interesting. It would have a little bit more color, and then George probably would have went home.
Yeah,
because George, I mean, when you looked at it, like the blockhead,
that like jaw was way too big. The ears looked deformed.
Yeah, and the ears were a lot more noticeable than the little jawline that was on Rachel's fawn cheerleader. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that, I would have taken more notice of the ears than this. You know?
He didn't look goblin-y enough either. He looked more, the judges said Frankenstein-y, and I was
Yeah.
thinking like fat Frankenstein, like big jawed, like
Yeah, if
little puffed up.
if you would have took off the nose, it wouldn't have looked like a goblin. I mean, of course, I mean that's the same thing, but yeah,
Goblin.
it just looked incomplete. Like you could just see it, and then
Yeah.
even then the costume didn't help either. It just kind of was just like, all right,
It literally just spelled out goblin, didn't it?
yeah. And you know what I
Which is really just pointing out the obvious too much for me.
And you know what? I mean, maybe I missed it, but where did that blockhead top piece that he was making go?
They covered it with hair.
Yeah,
and
'cause
it
remember-
didn't look as blocky. I thought it was gonna be like straight, like flat top, like eraser haircut, you know?
Yeah, that's
And it didn't come out that way.
yeah. He looked. From what I'm trying to like remember it like in my head. It looked like he had like a what do they call when it's just like short and then it's longer right here?
The mullet.
Yeah, the mullet. It looked like he had a mullet.
Business in the front, party in the back.
I mean,
Because he molded the blockhead and then put that wig on it, probably just like made the mullety look.
I mean,
which
maybe
is still equally douchey for like a jock.
yeah,
Goblin.
yeah, you are. It is, but still, I mean, I think the blockhead would have been more interesting than just the hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I even saw him like pounding it out, and I'm like, oh, that's gonna be exciting. Like it's gonna be a goblin with like a blockhead. So it's gonna be a very literal take, you know. And then suddenly I saw the wig, and I was like, wait, what's going on? So what happened to all this?
It's weird though because Michael Westmore was the one that told him to do the blockhead instead of the pointy head.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the blockhead shape is what made him look too Frankenstein-y
Yeah,
a little bit.
But-
it was still the wig fluffed it up on the top.
yeah. It was just kind of it was weird. And then even you see his drawing, and it was still kind of like
Little
it didn't look like it. Even when he was still trying to do that point, it was kind of like, what is he doing a point for? Like, yeah, it was just so strange. He was kind of a little all over the place.
Back and forth between the pointy head and the blockhead kind of
Yeah.
decisions.
I don't know what he was doing this week.
There's so much talent now that we're getting
I
towards
know.
the end, and there's only 4 more episodes left, and it's getting so cutthroat. I feel like this episode was like, meh, meh, like just kind of like a dud because they're all exhausted, and it wasn't like a challenge that was that crazy. Or,
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't. And then all the like the fantasy creatures were all the same. Like, you know, like they
Yeah.
could have at least done like a
they could have
mermaid
done some
student.
really cool fantasy characters or hybrids with, I don't know. I just feel like even when they got this as a challenge and they're walking up to the lockers, they're like, oh, back to high school. And everyone's like, ugh.
Yeah,
like,
they all did.
God, no. Like, none of them were like, yes, it's the Wonderland Challenge or like blood and guts. You know, they usually get super excited. They're like, oh, God, high school. Like,
Yeah.
this
The only one that
sucks.
seemed like he probably had a good time in high school was George. It seemed like he was the cool kid because he was like, I was just obnoxious. And I'm like, oh, that
Oh,
totally
yeah. He
reads.
was like, I was more obnoxious than I already am. I was like,
yeah, you were like the
cool jock.
clown. Yeah, the
Were
cool.
you the goblin jock?
Yeah, he was the goblin jock that probably make jokes in class all the time and
Yeah.
cause a big ruckus.
And his makeup was weak this week, and same with Rachel's, and both of them are usually really good. And I
Yeah.
think it was this challenge, and when you're not inspired as an artist too, it's just kind of like, meh.
And it sucks that it cost Rachel that.
I know, poor thing. I feel like she was almost kind of like over it. you
Well,
know?
and I think
When
she
she
knew.
was kind of like, I didn't show the ears, and she didn't even put the horns on. I think she was like, this isn't a good makeup, and
You think she was just kind of giving up and just kind of like, all right.
yeah, I mean, obviously she looked so heartbroken and sad when she got eliminated, but if you've made it this far, you're a winner. You've done
Really?
really well. And I think she knew it wasn't her strongest makeup, and that's why she didn't perfect it so the ears were showing and just make the horns work and stress
Yeah.
about it. I think she was just like, I know this isn't working out, which is sad.
I know.
I'm glad that George is still on, though, because we had him here in the studio when we first started doing this after show, and he was so chill and funny and just like
I was
to be around. So I'm like, yay, he's
I
still
was
on.
rooting for George, like, you know, like you're saying, like it was just kind of like, yeah, yay, he's going, he's still, you know.
Yeah.
But it's so hard now.
He's been coasting though, and it's true. Like he's great, but he's not like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing makeup every week. So we'll see if he goes in the next 4 or not.
I
See
still
who
I still
the
think
top
like,
ones.
yeah, I know, yeah, the top. Who knows?
Who knows?
It's so difficult.
Well, you can let us know what you guys think by going on to iTunes and checking out AfterBuzz TV. You can find our show under Face Off, of course. Please rate, comment, leave us 5 stars. We love 5 stars here. That would be fabulous. And while you're online, you could go over to birchbox.com if you guys are big makeup fans, which I'm sure you are if you're watching the show right now. And all you have to do is sign up. You make a little profile, and they'll send you all the products you like once a month in a little box. Fun little present to yourself, and it's $10 a month. But if you use the promo code AfterBuzz, then you get $10 off. 1 month free of beauty products. How fabulous is that?
Yay!
I'm going to sign up. It's happening. Got to get ready for all the lights and cameras, you know.
Yeah. You know who should sign up? Stella's Creation, because she was beautiful.
Creation,
Well, she doesn't even need all that makeup.
She doesn't. Stella's was one of my favorites.
It was Dina and Stella.
Stella's, she wanted to make fat, and it didn't turn out fat.
I mean, it looks...
kind of did a little, but
yeah, but
cows are fat already, so it just looked like a cow with an extra chin roll.
But it was she was so pretty.
So pretty. And the green eyes too. I'm assuming that's the model's eyes, but like not contacts, but beautiful.
And there was a lot of cool things that they talked about, how the nose, like how it blended in kind of like the little spotty, and then it kind of blended into the rest of the flesh of that
and she
animal.
messed up the nose, and they had to go back and fix it, and they liked it.
Goodness, I missed that. Like, where was I?
Yeah, it like it sealed, the mold sealed.
Yes, yeah, I do remember
like
that.
An air pocket, and then she popped it.
But like even then, like the paint was so super cool about it. You know what I mean? It was like really. But yeah, I totally did forget about that. Wow, she did a good job then, because they didn't even talk. They didn't mention that at all.
I didn't notice it with her makeup in the end, and on Rachel's and George and Sasha's. I mean, we watched on a big screen here in HD, but you were like, ooh, seam, like that's not blended. Like it was way more noticeable in Stella's. I was like, oh, that looks really good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And she was the one that messed up with the
I know it. You're so right. Now I'm just more upset that Stella and Dina were not, because those are the ones that I didn't see.
Pet this week.
Yeah, because those are the ones I didn't notice that there was any seams or like anything. Because even Sig's, you could see on the his right hand side there was like a line.
You can see it.
Yeah, and then when you looked at him dead on, you couldn't see it. But right in the back, it was right there, clearly visible. But yeah, Dina's and Stella's didn't have any seams. And I loved their makeup. Why weren't they top?
I know. Hopefully they can redeem themselves next week. I'm like, oh, they did so well this week.
And the judges are always so brutal too. And they weren't even like, they were like, oh yeah, they did a great job. No seams or anything like
safe.
That. Yeah. And then I loved how Lois Burt, I just kind of going back to Stella. I just loved all the moments when they were talking about Stella's creation. When what is his Glenn was like, what did he say? He was like,
it's not a bull, and then she was like, because it's a lady.
Yeah. He was like, shut your mouth, Glenn.
It's like, yeah, girl power.
I feel like
stand up for the ladies, Lois.
Exactly. And I feel like Lois is one of those people that is just like, you'll say something, and if she thinks it's stupid, she'll like give a response to why it's stupid, and then like just stay in silence, and you kind of know, like, shut your mouth, you don't know what you're talking about.
I feel like she's the one that I always relate to what she says. Like when she's like, this one looks like a Muppet a little bit, or this one looks a little, like usually whatever she says, I'm like, I agree with her. And then sometimes Neville and Glenn, I'm like, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't really agree with a lot of what they say.
I mean, not that I don't trust them as judges, but I just like Lois, I think, and so that's what makes me just like, oh, I like what she said. Like whenever she says, oh, that was exquisite. Like when she was talking about the neckline and stuff, she's like, oh, the neckline is exquisite, and I was like, yeah it is. You're right.
Exactly.
I love her.
She's my favorite. Glenn seems like he'd be really like fun to hang out with and funny, but also like switch to being a hard ass every once in a while.
Yeah. And you're like, what? I don't know
like,
which
wait,
one.
Yeah.
Which one's here today?
I bet he's really fun though.
Yeah.
He seems like he would be. It's getting so cutthroat.
I know. I'm still sad about Dina.
I know. I am too. Well, hopefully she will redeem herself next week. Let's get into some predictions.
Let's do it.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
4 more episodes left.
Oh no.
And next week is the Challenge of the Gods, and the preview looked pretty cool. I hope they do some cool, like, Greek mythological gods.
I saw a lot of glitter, and I'm a lot excited.
We will probably be covered in glitter, too, just to
Let's
celebrate.
do it. Yeah. Let's just be glittered out with, I don't know, mythical robes. We're being like toga. It's going to be a toga party at AfterBuzz.
Glitter is so magical. It just
It
makes
is.
sense. I hope that they do some really cool, like, mythological, you know, like, Greek and Roman gods.
It looked like it.
that.
And the colors look beautiful, too.
Be interesting to see what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any predictions for who do you think will go home next week, possibly?
I believe that, I have a feeling Drew might go home.
You think so?
Yeah. Or, I don't know. Yeah, Drew. That's what I think. I don't know. I have my favorites at this point. It's kind of hard. I'm so biased now.
Oh, same here.
Because
I'm like,
I love Sig, Dina, Sasha.
and Stella.
And
those are my favorites right now.
Yeah.
I could see, Drew or George being bottom next week.
Yeah.
But with that challenge, I don't really know. I feel like they could really surprise us with this one, with the gods challenge, and also what type of god they're going to get, you know?
Exactly. And
I can get adventurous with some and not others, I feel like, and it's also more like a taboo subject, so it's like, oh, which one are they going to get?
Yeah. And then clearly now with the judges, it's like we don't know who they're gonna pick or who's, you know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Dina and Stella were so amazing, and they didn't even pick them. You know what I mean? So I feel like at this point the competition's so tight that there's just no room for mistakes, and the person that's gonna go home is gonna be the person that just luck was not on, or not luck, but just fate was not on their side, and they got a little nervous and they messed up their technique.
The gods were not on their side.
The gods were not on their side.
Hopefully God will be on someone's side.
Yeah, I'm hoping gods will be
gods they need.
on Dina's side. That's what I'm predicting. I think
makeup
Dina's
gods.
gonna be. Yeah. Want their cake decorator to be on top next week. So go Dina.
Yeah,
Team Dina.
go Dina, since we didn't get to see as much of her. Even I loved her character. Like,
Me too.
I am obsessed with both her and Siggs, how dorky they were, and I want them to hang out together and be nerd friends.
Yeah. Sig and Dina, those are my top people.
Well, I guess we'll have to see who our tops are next week. Thank you so much for tuning into our after show. And where can they find you online?
You guys can find me on soundcloud.com/AAMOmusic, as well as Twitter, AAMOmusic.
He's got some new songs that are pretty fabulous. Be sure to check them out. And you can find me online on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Danica Kennedy. Thanks for watching.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.